President Biden made some pretty big targets at his climate summit. Do you think they're achievable?
No, not really. I mean, most of them are aspirational, and a lot of them depend, of course, on how China wants to play the game. I mean, the Chinese have made it very clear that if they're going to get into the global climate change business, that is, they're going to cut greenhouse emissions and the rest of it. China's got all these coal mines and factories, and the air is terrible. They're only coming to the party if the United States backs off another way. Very interesting this week, hardly covered in this country, but covered very deeply in Beijing and other places, is the Strategic Competition Act, which is literally identified China as the threat of the future. In fact, it's about preparing for war with China in many realms in terms of weapons and communications and everything. And so, you can't have it both ways. You can't ask people to join your international crusade. I noticed that one of Biden said, this is this generation's moonshot. I don't know. I know a number of millennials who don't have many moonshots in mind, but I remember when John Kennedy said we're going to go to the moon and back this decade, everybody got terribly excited, and billions of dollars were spent, and no one knew if the damn thing was going to work, and we finally got to the moon and back, and it was very exciting, but it was all part of the Cold War hysteria that was going on. Today, Biden has promised electric cars and new electric grids at the cost of billions of dollars, but he really hasn't suggested how he's going to pay for it or what the carbon tax is going to be. But look, he set out a nice agenda, and he sent out a very important statement. The United States is back in the climate change business. So he had 42 people were on Zoom or whatever it was, and they're going to go to this conference in Glasgow and put down other things. But, they're making promises 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Hell, I can do that. I mean, you make a promise 20 years down the road, you might not even be here. So they're promising for the future. But at the same time, you need the cooperation of the world, the international community, and there's no magic in the international community. They've all got to come together in terms of their own national interests.
So if he's setting a target that's not achievable, is he setting himself up for failure?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's wanted to do this. And look, he's being pushed by a lot of people, particularly the left wing of the party and a lot of other people, I suppose, special interest groups, to shoot for the moon on this. And he knows he's not going to make most of these things. But look, it's been a hell of a week for him. He gets to talk about climate change while we have a trial in Minneapolis, which convicts this Derek Chauvin of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, manslaughter of George Floyd. So he's averted all kinds of riots in the United States, so that's pretty good. The only trouble with that is that this case is going to be thrown out or reversed at the Supreme Court within 1 year because there were a lot of deficiencies in the trial. I mean, it should have been granted a mistrial when Maxine Waters went to town and started threatening people. And it should have been a mistrial when he didn't sequester the jury from day one. He only sequestered them for the deliberations. And so I don't think this is going to hold up. It's going to be very bad news in the Supreme Court in about 1 year from now. And so we'll see where that goes. And the other thing, too, is that the president had a win this week that he didn't take credit for, and that's the Russians retreated from the threat to invade Ukraine. So he gets a little bit of that. But
Joe, can we go back to this murder trial? You think that it won't hold up in the Supreme Court? Do you think that this verdict will be thrown out?
The smartest minds at Harvard, led by Alan Dershowitz, who is the premier appellate lawyer in the United States, has predicted, and I'm going to bet with him on this one, that these convictions will be reversed at the Supreme Court level based on case studies or case law of the Ku Klux Klan intimidating juries and courthouses in the 1920s and 30s. I mean, there was a great deal of fear that had seeped into the jury room, and the jury made a very hasty decision within 11 hours. Normally these things take about 4 or 5 days. They decided to throw the book at Chauvin so they can get out of the way. And, if they had acquitted this guy for any particular reason or didn't think the state held up its end of the bargain, they'd all be targets. I mean, it was quite clear there was a quite intimidating thing there. But look, all the smart money in the United States, that is the law school guys, predict this will all be reversed at the Supreme Court within 1 year, and it would be reversed on the basis of the the weight of those Trump appointees. So, we got the battle lines being drawn. This will not hold up. I mean, right now it looks pretty good for the people who wanted to throw the book at this guy, and he certainly did not acquit himself. His defense didn't acquit himself very well during the trial. But look, his lawyer
is reversed. If this is reversed, there will be a huge reaction in America. People were taking to the streets celebrating the verdict. So if it is reversed in a year's time, what do you suspect will happen? The storm is going to happen. Everything that was going to happen this week, if he was acquitted, will happen in 1 year from now when the Supreme Court throws out the convictions. Now, it's simply the motion for a mistrial, do it all over again. But by this time, people have regarded the conviction of this guy as the beginning of a brand new day in America. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, even though Chauvin was found guilty, and he probably was guilty, it's just a drop in the bucket in terms of the racial and social justice relations in the United States. But yes, this will be reversed at the Supreme Court level within 1 year on solid grounds, and that is, in fact, the judge said to the defense lawyer, he says, "I'm not going to do anything right now," but he says, "You got a good case for an appeal." And look, the reason he did not want to grant a mistrial on the day is because then he would be responsible for the rioting and the deaths that took place across the United States. And the judge didn't have that kind of courage, and who can blame him? So he just backed off it. But he knows this is going to go on appeal. Minneapolis section or district will probably agree with the lower court. But when it gets to the Supreme Court of the United States, they're going to throw this one outside.